Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we are going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Surgeon Stevens, who is going to be coming to RTS as an Ultra Token Will recruit. Now visually we have had a Surgeon Stevens, or at least a Dr. Stevens in the game already, and he had a brand new specialist skill in Halo, and this time around we have another brand new Dr. Stevens / Surgeon Stevens, and he's also got a brand new specialist skill as well. We'll check that out later on in the video. But visually, kind of all of the, Stevens look pretty similar because he's a doctor. He's always fast, apparently. I think he's always had a fast character. On the right-hand side, you can see he's got all the surgical gear ready. On the left-hand side, I did say this in my teaser video, this art is way more gruesome, and I wasn't joking. The other arts are just as gruesome. It's crazy. But yeah, the visuals look kind of cool. He has a weapon in his hands on the left-hand side, kind of a bloodied slash. It could potentially be like, I don't know. It looks like it's maybe on fire, but it's not. It's bloodied, I'm sure. Actually, it might have been, heated up to be able to. Yeah, okay. Yeah, at level 1,440, limit break 3, he has 13,242 attack, 37,080 defense, and 37,962 HP. He is going to be a fast character, like I said, holding that little tiny dagger on the right hand side. He's going to be a medic role, Gold Mythic of course, and he's going to be a new character joining the Woodbury Allegiance. Now first up, we're going to be looking at the adrenaline rush of Surgeon Stevens. I'll most likely call him Dr. Stevens from time to time too. It's called Suit Yourself. It has a recharge rate of 66 AP. This fighter and 2 teammates recover from all penalties. This fighter gets 100% normalized resistance and heals for 50% of their max HP for the rest of combat. So pretty simple when it comes to what it does. Full cleanse on himself and other characters. Normalized resistance means that his specialist skill can still continue to work, and his specialist skill is quite nice, obviously. And then lastly, he heals for 50% of his max HP for the rest of combat. This will stack with itself and any other heal over time buffs, so you don't have to worry there. But potentially, obviously, he could be healing for up to 100% plus HP per turn if this goes off more than once. Obviously, it can get pretty ridiculous. And don't forget, because he's a medic role, any of that HP that he does heal, even with this heal over time, a percent of it will be given as bonus HP because of his passive. So that is just a little note on top. So the adrenaline rush works when it comes to survivability. Obviously, he can't be controlled in certain ways to be able to actually do this. He can't be impaired, stunned, confused, or taunted. Unless he has focus, he can obviously be taunted and confused. So there are certain circumstances where this is not going to actually be able to work. But I will say, in the rest of his kit, he has got ways to make those things less of an issue too. So here we are using Surgeon Stevens on an attack team. I figured it's easier for me to show you on an attack team. Right now you can see my entire team is bleeding, and that includes Surgeon Stevens himself. When I do the adrenaline rush, Surgeon Stevens will be cleansed, so that bleed will go away. So would any other negative effect that he has. But also, so will 2 of the teammates' bleeds go away and any other negative effect they would have. So we'll do the adrenaline rush. You'll see the animation come in, and it's going to be Surgeon Stevens, Negan, and Wayland, who got cleansed. You can see they've no longer got bleed, and if they were stunned or impaired or anything as well, that would all be gone. And now Surgeon Stevens, you just saw it, has a 50% heal for the rest of combat. He also has a lot of other buffs. Like I said, a little bit of contingency when it comes to having some of these effects not even be able to be applied early on in the fight. So that's actually quite good. But we also saw, like I said, the 50% heal for the rest of combat. And like I said, that's stacked. So if he gets any other heal over times, then it'll get that boosted up as well. Now you might have also seen the 100% normalized resistance for the rest of combat. That just means his specialist skill is more likely to be able to occur when he wants it to. There are some people who can do normalize who are control role, and they'd reduce this down to 60%, but 60% is still pretty decent. I think the best normalized resist we have is 70% on passives. So effectively, Surgeon Stevens has pretty much the best potential normalized resistance in the game, and it's a 100% chance against particular characters. If we look at the upgrades here, you can see at grade 2 there's an upgrade where this fighter gets 100% normalized resistance for the rest of combat. At grade 4 there's an upgrade where this fighter heals for 50% of their max HP for 3 turns. At Limit Break 1, there's going to be +2 recovery targets. So initially, it's just a self-cleanse, but then it obviously recovers 2 teammates. This is actually pretty important, in my opinion, just because this isn't going to be that big of an adrenaline rush unless he's cleansing his teammates. It's pretty much as simple as that. And then at Limit Break 3, the heal changes to heal for the rest of combat instead of 3 turns. So I wouldn't say necessarily the Limit Break 3 is important when it comes to the heal. It's nice, but it isn't, you know, really important. But you will lose out on stats, and Surgeon Stevens will work on a defense team where it needs stats. So Limit Break 3 is generally still very important for the stat side of things, but let's say you wanted to utilize him just for the specialist skill, you could potentially do that and use him on an attack team at lower grade. You could kind of gauge it based on the signature move upgrades instead, which is most likely going to be Limit Break 2, because generally out of the signature move and the rush, only one of them is Limit Break 3. But this one is not super needed for attack, but Limit Break 3, generally speaking, yes, for defense. So the Adrenaline Rush is just okay. It's a nice little cleanse and some resistances and some heals. And that's generally not too bad when it comes to being on a defense team. You know, you've got characters that can do damage. You've got characters that can be hard to actually hit, but you need other characters to make it so that they can still utilize their kits. And there's a lot of characters that have just recently come out in Davey and Wendy who are doing a lot of control, whereas Surgeon Stevens is going to stop that potential to a certain extent as well. So yeah, like I say, it's decent and it works in what is the current like meta of characters that are being released to soft counter some of the more recent heavy control releases. And this is more healthy for the game, in my opinion, than let's say a character that just one-shots half a team with their Adrenaline Rush or signature move. I hate that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is good. Now next we'll check out the signature move of Surgeon Stevens, and it is called Surgical Theatre. Initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 1 turn, number of uses unlimited, taunt a line of enemies for 1 turn, but you also get +1 turn for each teammate with 0% AP. This fighter heals for 100% of their max HP for 2 turns and gets a Guardian Shield. So basically the taunt is nice off base. It's just going to taunt a line of enemies. That's going to be minimum of 1 enemy because he also targets somebody, and then he'll have a taunt proc. Then the +1 turn for each teammate with 0% AP. On an attack team, this means you can guarantee +4 turns to a line. So it should potentially be a 5-turn taunt to a line of enemies. Now get this, guys, with a 1-turn cooldown. That's the bit that's crazy, because theoretically, when it comes to the next turn, he could be doing it again when he can actually do his signature move and taunt the other line of enemies on an attack team. Now, you'd hope that you would have dealt with some of these characters in that time, but he has really good control, even just for attack. Now, I do think he's more of a defensive character in his balance and the rest of his kit and stuff like that, but it's not impossible to use this guy on attack, that's for sure. The second part, he heals for 100% of his max HP for 2 turns. That's going to stack with his Adrenaline Rush, so it'll be 150% for maybe a turn or 2, depending on how quickly he rushes after his signature move and so on and so forth. The Guardian Shield is just to protect him against one of those hits on the actual signature move that he's going to get from the taunt. But if he does get, you know, taunt attacked 5 times by 2 characters, you're going to need something to keep him alive, because he's going to take a reasonable amount of damage, honestly. He's going to take a reasonable amount of damage, at least while he's on an attack team. If he's on a defense team, you'd assume that he's going to be very beefy. You know, he's going to have much higher stats defensively, so he's going to be able to take those hits, and that's where his heal over time is going to come into good use to just top him back up to max HP as he starts taking damage. So yeah, the signature move is crazy good, and it has pretty good usability by the looks of things on attack or defense. We'll test it out on attack just to show you how it works, because on defense, honestly, it's kind of random whether a character is going to have 0% AP or not. So if we start the fight this time around, you can see that none of my team have any AP, all zeros everywhere. So if I do a taunt against the bottom line of characters, you can see it goes to a 5-turn taunt, apparently, because Stevens is actually included in this. So if I had all 5 team members with 0% AP, it'd be a 6-turn taunt. That is, like I say, kind of mental. That is kind of mental indeed. We'll do some defend actions. I'll have to do his signature move. I can't remember what his signature move does. Oh, it just gives AP. Okay. So he'll lose the Guardian Shield, and then he'll take some basic attack damage, as you'll see. But then the next turn, because he obviously had the 100% heal, he gets healed back up and gets a little bit of bonus HP. And generally speaking, he'd probably have enough AP to rush very often, because he's doing his signature move every other turn. Plus, every turn he'd be getting hit by 2 taunt attack, characters, and they would be giving him 5 AP just because they're taunted. So we'll defend again. We'll let the actions come in. Okay. I can't actually use the signature move, but I could use the signature move against the top line again. And this time around, it'll be a 3-turn taunt against the top line, while there's still a 3-turn taunt against the bottom line. And this is because Glenn's got 0. No, actually be a 2-turn taunt, sorry. So, like, Glenn's got 0, plus, that's a +1. So it'll be a 2-turn taunt to that line. On an attack team, obviously, you can control when you do this. If you know you're just about to Adrenaline Rush with everybody, and don't forget, if you Adrenaline Rush with a character on this turn, like if I was to have 100% AP on Negan, and I was to Adrenaline Rush there instead of doing a basic attack, he goes down to 0, and then I could use his at the end, his signature move at the end, and that would make it so that, I'd increase the amount of taunt duration there is. So you can wait until the end of the turn to do it after the first turn. Like I say, actually pretty interesting for an attack team. So you see the potential there of the taunts. On defense, it will just be popping off whenever he has it, and it'll be basically the RNG of if characters have 0% AP or not. It could work because, generally speaking, characters might Adrenaline Rush on turn 2 or 3, and then Surgeon Stevens will be doing his signature move on turn 3, again, the second time, and it just based on the order of which characters rush and signature move first, he could be taunting characters for a long time. And this is obviously problematic when it comes to dealing with Stevens as the last character alive, or like one of the last characters alive. He can get you into like a taunt loop where it's impossible to break out of it. So you definitely need to have something to deal with this character if you come up against him, because he can be problematic. Grade 3, you can see though, he gets -1 to starting cooldown. I don't think I've seen a -1 to starting cooldown that low forever, if ever, honestly. It's going to go from turn 2 starting cooldown down to a turn 1 starting cooldown. At grade 5, it gets an upgrade where it heals for 100% of their max HP for 2 turns. And at limit break 2, it gets an upgrade where you get +1 taunt duration for each teammate with 0% AP. Now, these upgrades are actually really good for his usability on an attack team with limited, pulls. If you only get him to grade 5, you're going to still have the taunt to align for 1 turn. You'll also have the specialist skill, which we will look at later, and anything that comes with the passives when it comes to him being attacked. And he does get bonuses there. He also gets that daze when doing his defend action, like I did showed in the teaser. So even a grade 5 potentially could be decent. Limit break 2 would be better for an attack team, and I'd say that's kind of the minimum for his top tier usability, just because you are going to have that taunt duration increased. I've not changed my mind on a defense team. It's limit break 3 just for the stats. But on an attack team, he can sacrifice a little bit of stats and just get to limit break 2. We have to see on the passives if he has to get that last passive upgrade or not to be really good. But we'll have to wait and see there. But this signature move is great. It is really good. It's going to be very problematic if you face him and he goes off consistently. You need to be very careful. Like I said, you need to make sure that you have something to do with this, or you could get looped in. If anyone remembers, back in the 5-star era, we had taunt characters like, I think it was Priya. The fast Priya just got you in a taunt loop. Even Cal back then got you in a taunt loop. It can be very, very problematic to deal with there. But on an attack team, like I say, pretty decent, usability potentially. So I like this signature move. It's obviously very, very good for Surgeon Stevens, and he'll be gaining AP quite a lot because of those hits, and it offsets the fact that his Adrenaline Rush is 66 AP there. Now, Surgeon Stevens is going to be an Ultra Token character, so we are going to be giving away some Ultra Tokens in this video. For your chance to win 10,000 Ultra Tokens, all you have to do is leave a comment on the video. Make sure you hit the like button. It's pretty much as simple as that. You can leave a comment about the character, how you're feeling about the game, whatever you want to leave. As long as it's a comment on the video, it can count towards, obviously, being an entry. Simple as that, guys. Best of luck if you enter. Now, back to the video. So next up, we're going to look at Surgeon Stevens' mythic abilities. These are the passive skills, of course. He has got Spirit because he is a medic. 20% of all healing performed by this fighter also granted his bonus HP. He only self-heals at the moment from what I can see, but that's still going to give him extra bonus HP with any healing that he actually receives. And then next up is Fresh Start. At the start of each wave, 100% chance this fighter gets 100% confused, taunt, stun, and normalize resistance for 1 turn. This is to stop him, obviously, from getting controlled early on in the fight, so he can't do his specialist skill or his signature move. Now, he obviously doesn't get daze resist in here, so it could be really priority to get him a very good daze resist in his combat mods. The next one is Dizzy Work. When performing the defend action, 100% chance 2 random enemies get dazed for 2 turns. This is the one I showed in my teaser, and it works in conjunction with his specialist skill, which we will check out a little bit later. But I did show this in my teaser, and it works very nicely. Daze on attack or defense is very strong, so again, his usability on attack still seems reasonably viable. And now with the final passive for Dr. Stevens, it's called Medical Protection. When being attacked, 100% chance to impair the attacker for their next 2 turns. Obviously, he has taunted attack, so he's going to be impairing characters. So on an attack team, he can counter outlast characters where he can taunt that line, they'll attack him, and they'll get impaired 100% of the time. And then obviously, if you take out an outlast character while they're impaired, they will not gain 100% AP, even if they cleanse because of the order it comes out in. So he's going to be able to counter that on attack teams. And like I said, you only need him to get him to grade 5 to be able to do that. So even just, I think maybe even grade 4 might even be able to do that. So usability for free-to-play could be good even if you only have as little as 60 to 120,000 Ultra tokens. Just a couple of copies of this character could be useful for you. He's quite a nice utility character, kind of like Laura and Akira, where even low grade, they seem to be quite usable. So very nice passives on an attack team and defense team. I like the fact that it hasn't completely nullified his usability for attack. It is a bit of both. His stats are still going to be very useful for defense. So obviously, he's very qualified for defense teams, but it's based on the kit whether he has some sort of usability on attack, and his actual kit so far, definitely. And when it comes to the specialist skill, 100%. But first we'll check out these passives, just how they act in the fight. Okay, so we'll just show this quickly. We'll do the signature move against the bottom line for Surgeon Stevens. You can see those characters are going to get taunted for multiple turns. It is 1 less turn than last time because I did a basic attack with Lucky Wayland first, and I lose the fact that he's got 0% AP now. So early on in the battle, it's worth doing him first, and then maybe later on it's worth doing him last. We're going to defend on Negan. The first character that attacks Surgeon Stevens will not get impaired because of the Guardian Shield, but then other characters should, and that would be the character at the back, which was Zachary. So Zachary should be impaired, but on the next turn, we should also impair this character here, as we're going to be able to see. You just get a little sneak peek at the specialist skill there. And as you can see right now, they're all impaired from that line. So if they, like I say, if it was a character that had Outlast, I could take that character out, and then I know that character would not be able to Adrenaline Rush, no matter who it is, because of how the cleanses and stuff work when it comes to certain Outlast characters. Like Eris, 100% counter. So that's where the usability on an attack team comes in. And on defense, obviously, it's just based on the stats, the cleanses, and everything else in the kit. And I'll be honest, it's not exactly like control for a defense team character is a bad thing at all. Surgeon Stevens is definitely going to be bringing that to the table as well. If we look at the upgrades though, at grade 1, he gets the first half of Fresh Start at the start of each wave. 50% chance this fighter gets 100% confused, taunt, stun, and normalize resistance for 1 turn. At grade 2, he gets the Spirit upgrade where it's going to be 10% of all healing performed by this fighter, also granted as bonus HP. At grade 3, he gets the second half of Fresh Start where that Confused, Taunt, Stun, and Normalize Resistance for 1 turn will get increased up to 100% chance instead. Then we move on to the grades 4 and 5 upgrades. You can see the first half of Dizzy Work comes in. When performing the defend action, 50% chance 2 random enemies get dazed for 2 turns. And at grade 5, Medical Protection Part 1 comes in. When being attacked, 50% chance to impair the attacker for their next 2 turns. Moving on to the limit breaks, you can see at limit break 1, Spirit 2 comes in, where it goes to 20% of all healing performed by this fighter, also granted as bonus HP. It does look like that's just going to primarily be for himself, but if he did have a fast attacks weapon, this could also utilize this part of his passives. At limit break 2, he gets Dizzy Work 2 come in. When performing the defend action, now 100% chance 2 random enemies get dazed for 2 turns. And at Limit Break 3, Medical Protection 2 comes in. When being attacked, a 50% chance to impair the attacker for their next 2 turns, making it a 100% chance total. Now, it is worth noting, I did say, with the limit breaks, would it be worth going to a lower limit break or a lower upgrade for an attack team? If you did want to utilize impairing the enemy when he got attacked, you would have to go to Limit Break 3 to give that a 100% chance to occur. He is not a control character, so if the character that was attacking him did have resistances, obviously it'd be 100% effective when it comes to their resistance. But this is obviously where you have a 100% chance for it to at least initially proc. Then they have to have an actual resistance check. So for an attack team, I would say it looks like maybe Limit Break 3 is like needed if you want to get that cycle going in. But if you only want to utilize the taunt and kind of have the impair happen every now and again, 50% chance, you could go to a lower grade. So it could be worth a spin just for a couple of copies. You're going to get the character's kit that you see up to the grade, but you will get a specialist skill, and specialist skills like leader skills work, exactly as they are. They don't change based on the tier of the character, which is obviously great. And the specialist skill is new, and it is decent by the looks of things. We'll look at it in a minute, but the rest of his kit, you can see how the upgrades go. I do like the passives, but you have to go to Limit Break 3 to get that 100% impair. I would like to have seen that maybe be a bit easier to get, but it is what it is. Maybe Limit Break 2, swapping Dizzy Worker, but yeah, it just is that way. It's a shame that he's not like 100% like Akira and Laura, where they seem to be like really built very nicely with their skills and stuff like that, but it is what it is. I still say he has definitely good usability on an attack team for sure, just based on his kit so far. Lots of control and stuff, but the AP gain that he gets from a specialist skill is great. So talking of that specialist skill, it is Energize. I did do a little preview teaser of this specialist skill. You can go check out that video if you so wish. When this fighter performs a defend action, at the start of the next turn, all teammates gain 50% of their max AP. An Energize specialist can only use it once per turn. This is just to stop him getting commanded to defend again to use it and give 100% AP. That doesn't work, but he will be able to give 50% of his AP, and it is worth noting because of the passives, he will also be dazing enemies. So it's not like he's not doing anything when he does a defend. Like a command, a lot of the time can just command with the defend action and not do anything. And then they introduce someone like Akira who actually gets bonuses from doing that, and that's where it's actually kind of nice. And Surgeon Stevens is going to pretty much do the same thing here. So it's pretty simple specialist skill. You're on an attack team. I select the character I want to daze. I will use the defend action. They will get dazed, and you can see all of my characters have this animation. It's actually a really cool animation, including Surgeon Stevens. So someone did actually ask, I wonder if it will actually work with Stevens. He's not going to lose out on AP for doing this, where if he did this normally, he could potentially just be at 0 AP. You might want to do his, signature move first on the first turn. It really depends on how you set up your team. But if we just do some attacks and stuff on these other characters, you can see they'll gain 50% of their max AP at the start of their next turn. If they did their signature moves where they got 35 AP, they'd all be at max AP, and they'd all be adrenaline rushing right now. This is particularly good for certain teams. One of the teams I can think of is going to be Lone Wolves, like I talked about in my teaser video. Lone Wolves turn 2 is really bad. Now you're eliminating turn 2. You're making it just turn 1, then turn 3. Lone Wolves are a turn 1 and turn 3 team because they're all about the signature moves, and then they're all about the adrenaline rushes. They're not so much about the basic attacks in the middle of that. So eliminating that could be really good for certain characters, either in Ghost, Michonne, Wanderer. You could easily have those characters in a team with Surgeon Stevens here, and it'd work absolutely fine. Lots of AP gain. You wouldn't be missing out on the AP loss from like a command because you're effectively getting it for the entire team with a Surgeon Stevens. And obviously, if all of my team have their adrenaline rushes on turn 2, I can still use the defend action on turn 2 because I could then adrenaline rush with everybody, and then they'd now be at 0 of their AP, and then I'd obviously be able to give them AP for their next turn, or I could adrenaline rush with everybody and then use his signature move, and then the signature move is ultra effective because everyone's got now 0% AP. There's a lot of choice when it comes to attack. On defense, it's going to be like pretty random, but it doesn't really matter too much what happens. If he uses the defend action, everyone on defense is going to get AP. Great. If he uses his taunt, there's going to be characters on attack teams that are taunted for potentially 1 to 6 turns. Great. You know, if he uses Adrenaline Rush, he's going to cleanse people, heal himself. That's pretty great. So there isn't really anything that's bad on his kit when it comes to on a defense team. It's just obviously there's less control there. But on an attack team, you get to choose. Are two of my characters, you know, about to die from infection? I better do his Adrenaline Rush. Are two of their characters about to rush? Are they in a line? I can taunt them. Are my characters on 0% AP and I haven't got my signature move? Should I defend so that they can Adrenaline Rush next turn after doing their signature moves now? Like I say, a lot of choice here, and I think Dr. Stevens just generally has quite a lot of utility on attack because of the choices you can make with the character at any point. That defend action has no cooldown. The specialist skill can be done every single turn whenever you want. Now, the point that I think is going to change how Dr. Stevens is used is going to be the weapon. He doesn't have an attached weapon. And on a defense team, obviously, you want to give him a nice defensive one, probably absolute defense, maybe even a bit of fast healing because he's a medic. He's going to get bonuses there. I think it's a bit more simple to think of the defense team weapon. On attack, a bit more variability that can be used. He could hold a ransack weapon in his hand so that he could do basic attacks, like add a fourth option to his kit where he could steal buffs away. You could have him with a weapon that buffs. There is a fast attacks weapon out there. He could hold that and give everyone at least, 10% attack because he's a fast character. For every other fast character, another 10% attack. There is definitely options. You could give him more of a defensive weapon so he doesn't take as much damage when he gets taunt attacked. You could give him a fast healing weapon on attack so he's actually healing everybody. There's a bit more options, like I say, on attack. What option is best is going to be mainly based on what attack team you use and kind of the level of play you are. If you want to win quick, you don't need to do heals. But if you find yourself struggling against teams and you needing to survive, you're going to maybe need a fast healing weapon. So, you know, pretty much as simple as that. I would say going with an 8% weapon would probably be the bad idea because it limits your choice on first turn. If you did want to taunt straight away, everyone's going to have AP at that point, and that's only going to be a 1-turn taunt to a line instead of a 6-turn taunt to a line. You don't want to eliminate that potential option. So this was Surgeon Stevens, a little first look at this character, and his usability on defense is obvious. He's got defensive stats, he's got a defensive kit, he's got some control in there. He's a very good utility healer on a defense team, but on attack, he's just surprisingly useful. As that safety net that you've got, he doesn't do any revives, it's the only thing, but he does some heals maybe for the entire team based on the weapon. He does some buffs, obviously based on the weapon, but he also does control. He also does AP gain. These are good things for attack teams, and Surgeon Stevens is bringing that to the table pretty heavily. So I can see people definitely using him, even at lower grades, you know, on attack. I'm definitely going to try this guy out on attack. He looks actually pretty decent. On a defense team, he's pretty easy. You slot him in, and he's going to do his business, you know, controlling enemies, giving AP to teammates. But on attack, you get to choose. It's always nice to have a choice, bit of excitement when it comes to what you want to do on each turn. And that's where you can kind of split players in the player base. Decision making is a big thing, and a lot of teams are pretty basic. This character does add a little bit of variability to someone's attack team. Do tell me your thoughts, though, on Surgeon Stevens, what you think about him. That is it in my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.